we've been discussing some of the films, and the one I was going to throw at you, because I'm just interested, is what did you think of Letter to Colleen?
Oh God, I have a headache. I wish I were back home watching TV in my Superman underoos.
I had funny reactions to Letter to Colleen. Initially I was very taken with it, and I thought, you know, this is really out there, and it's bizarre and a bit over the top and outrageous, but there seems real raw energy to it. When I saw it in an audience, I felt more uncomfortable. I'm not sure, well, probably because, you know, I wondered what other people were thinking and whether the material sort of hung together sufficiently to justify the explicit content, I guess.
You were saying that you admired Plato's allegory.
Yes, I admired the cave, I think partly because I'd always thought about the cave in very, Plato's version of it in very abstract terms, just in terms of, you know, the point that he was trying to make. But seeing that one in particular gave it a real kind of humanity and a darkness that is probably there in Plato. I mean, it is a fairly dark view of human existence.
But what is it that we're not experiencing directly?
Reality for him is the shadows on the wall. So reality is happening somewhere. For him, it's happening in, you know, what we would call, you know, heaven, or a version of heaven. There is an ideal world where everything exists in its ideal shape. We don't see those ideals. We see poor imitations of those ideals, which are like the shadows on the wall of the cave. So we have a very imperfect knowledge of what reality in his term is like. Reality for him is not what we see. What we see is a shadow of reality. No Bikini, as a narrative, as a straight narrative, No Bikini was so successful, I thought. It did everything in the space of whatever, the 8 minutes that it took. It told a great story that had sort of deeper levels. To have cast that film so well, and to have gotten children who could play those roles with that kind of subtlety. I mean, it was a very subtle and subtly done film, and it had that wonderful narrative arc that came through to a kind of completion that you don't expect you're not waiting for that in a film that short, but it managed to do that.
How about the one from Cheers? That's a good song.
Pavane was interesting because I had read the novel and I knew sort of the breadth of the story, and again wouldn't have had the expectation that a film of that length would really give me anything more than a snippet of one or other perhaps subplot or snippet in the book as a whole, but somehow that short managed to convey almost the whole sense of the novel. It was as if you were sort of getting a bite of the novel, but a bite that gave you the whole taste. I think partly because it took some of the essentials and interspersed them in the way it did with the animation and the live action, and I think the animation worked very well, both in I think in distancing us sufficiently from what happens that it doesn't, completely overwhelm a viewer and sort of turn into melodrama, and yet getting the emotion of it across within the context of the live action scene. So you suddenly see in that little interchange between the two brothers their whole lives. It was an incredibly moving film, I thought. The striking thing about Gargoyle was, I think, Andrew Davidson, his narration.
The Gargoyle is the story of a cynical modern man who is severely burned in a car accident.
I mean, I guess it was cut judiciously, but it was not scripted, and yet he has this real kind of presence that is mesmerizing and that makes you want to read his work, because it it seems to be of such import and from this very different kind of place. And I thought there was a really nice play in that movie between him and the visualized sequences. I'm not sure that it would have worked if it had only been those realized scenes. It might have seemed overly lush or overly lyrical.
What I really respond to is the delight with which he tells it. Like it's like he fully believes this stuff actually happened.
Yes, yes. You know, there's this play between what is real and what is made up that I think was handled very well in the film. It could have been easy. It would be very easy to overdo something like that, and I think it just found the right balance between rootedness and the allusion to stories that in themselves would also be hard to realize because they do have this fantastical element.
Mm-hmm.